What if I told you there is a country that was outpacing India in terms of development just a few decades ago, but is now stuck in a cycle of corruption and bad governance? Even Indian states individually boast of having a larger GDP than this whole country. Their annual inflation rate has touched close to 40%. Their economy is barely growing in single digits, and close to 40% children born in the country have stunted growth due to malnourishment. This isn't some war-torn African state or a forgotten dictatorship in Latin America. This is Pakistan, our neighboring country. And in this episode of FinShots TV, we'll try to break down how, despite being in a favorable position from a trade perspective and having vast fertile lands, Pakistan is a lesson in how not to run a country. Hi folks, FinShots TV is now a part of Zerodha's 01 network. Together, we plan on bringing you stories from the world of finance, business, economics, etc. that impact your daily life, oftentimes without you even knowing it. So stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe. Let's rewind to 1947. Both India and Pakistan start their journey from the same point in time. And for the first 2 decades, Pakistan was actually the rising star of South Asia. Its economy was flourishing, the growth was at an impressive rate, and it was far ahead of India's rigid socialist model. Karachi was a bustling port city. Lahore was a cultural capital, and Pakistan's stock market was one of the most vibrant in the region. In fact, in 1964, South Korea sent a delegation to Pakistan to study its 5-year plans. Yes, the same South Korea that would go on to become a tech and manufacturing powerhouse. They wanted to take lessons from Pakistan because back then, Pakistan was the model of development. Western powers loved it too because Pakistan had not adopted a socialist model like that of India. The US thought that Pakistan was their ally in its Cold War against Soviet Union and its communism. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. Although Pakistan looked like a free market driven by capitalism on paper, in reality it wasn't. Majority industries, institutions and organizations in the country belonged to a small group of elites, especially folks in the military. Yes, the military. The military in Pakistan has control of major banks, real estate companies, power plants, media organizations, you name it. But how could that even happen? Well, the thing is, out of 77 years of independence, the military has ruled Pakistan for close to 35 years. And even when they are not in power, they control who gets to be in power. The military in Pakistan has crept into every institution, every organization, be it public or private enterprise. This is called milbus or military business, the biggest economic force in their country. The Pakistani military and its people control some of the largest businesses in every industry. Not just that, they also control vast swathes of prime real estate, which they got at throwaway prices. And no, this is not for the use of the army, but for building housing societies that they can sell to people. All of this made it extremely difficult for private business, which is not backed by army or by the government, to flourish in the country. And it makes sense too. Why would private investors take the risk of putting money in a business when the playing field is rigged? Think about it. Would you invest in a cement company that competes with 4G Cement, which is run by the army? Would you buy land in free market when military-owned housing societies get cheap land and faster clearances? Not just small-time local investors, even foreign investors have been wary of Pakistan. Take their latest numbers for foreign direct investment. Pakistan's FDI for financial year 2024 is just $1.3 billion. Bengaluru startups raise more money than that. And the result of this is quite obvious. Pakistan now has a hollowed out private sector where innovation is dead and competition is rigged. The economy isn't run by the invisible hand of the market. It is run by the very visible fist of the military. On top of all of this, their military already controls the policy making. They have been consistently spending more money on military operation instead of using that money for development, for education, healthcare, building roads, getting free water to people. On top of that, they don't even have a wide tax base to earn more income. They don't even have large swathes of revenue. Their tax base is very small. The very rich in the country avoid paying taxes through legal and illegal loopholes, and the poor don't even have means to support direct income tax collection. So, when they run out of ways to earn money to run their country, they resort to debt and foreign aid. Their country is under tremendous debt, close to $280 billion. Their external debt is at $131 billion. And there seems to be no clear way for them to pay this debt off. It's not like their industries are flourishing and exports are growing. Then there is their over-reliance on foreign aid. Since independence, Pakistan has gone to the IMF 25 times for bailouts. That's more than any other Asian country. Compare this to India, which has only needed one bailout from the IMF, that too in 1991. The cycle is always the same. The government mismanages resources, foreign reserves collapse, inflation spikes, and Pakistan runs back to the IMF. And each time, the IMF imposes conditions: raise taxes, cut subsidies, reduce military spending, privatize loss-making government companies, allow private businesses to flourish. And each time, Pakistan nods. They promise. They say that they would stick to reforms. But nothing happens. Because real reform would mean taxing the rich, cutting military budgets, allowing a free market. But that would harm the interest of the very people who are running the country. No one wants to cut off their privileges. Take 2023 for example. Their entire aviation fuel supply chain was disrupted because they couldn't pay international suppliers in dollars. And the IMF demanded that they privatize the Pakistan International Airlines. This company reportedly lost 1 crore rupees every hour. But instead of privatizing it, they stalled, delayed, and begged for exceptions. Then there's the China angle. China has heavily invested in Pakistan, but most of these investments have seen resistance from common people because they seem to only benefit a handful elite. But here's the real tragedy. The billions of dollars that come in as foreign aid, they aren't used to build schools or hospitals or factories. They are used to fund short-term imports for elite consumption and military perks. This mismanagement has led to a widespread collapse, which is not just limited to GDP numbers, it's also visible in the lives of people. Inflation has peaked at 38%. Electricity bills have tripled in 3 years. Unemployment is soaring. 1/3 of the country is food insecure. Nearly half of all the Pakistani children under the age of 5 are stunted. This means they'll never grow to their full physical or mental potential. Meanwhile, the educated are fleeing the country. Annually, around 8 to 10 lakh Pakistanis leave the country to find better opportunities elsewhere. Clearly, Pakistan is a lesson in how not to run a country. Do you think they could ever come out of this mess that they've created for themselves? Let us know in the comments. See you on the other side.